We know there are powerful forces in Washington who want to stop us, but we won't let them. We don't need advice from the Washington swamp.
As President Trump, from the way he talks about Washington, you might think that he didn't control a big chunk of it with a party that also controls another chunk of it. Amanda, let me start with you. It seems like President Trump on the stump and on tweets is more and more distancing himself from Republicans in Congress. He refers to them in the third person, Republicans, they, blah, blah, blah. He talks about their legislation. What might this mean for Republicans on the ballot next year?
Well, I think we're all trying to navigate this question of where we're going as a party. And right now, nobody has any legislative achievements to brag about. All the Republicans are getting an earful over August recess about it. And so they're distancing each other from each other. Not only is Trump doing this, but you see so many Republicans starting to find their voice in speaking out against Trump. We saw Jeff Flake come out this week. Lindsey Graham has no apprehension about this. And I think about what did the Democratic Party look like in Obama's first term, first 6 months? I cannot think of one person who spoke out against Obama, but Republicans seem very comfortable doing this. And so if there's no legislative victories at the end of the first year going into 2018, we're just going to part ways a little bit.
Senator, early on, you expressed concern and surprise that Republicans in the House and Senate did not have Obamacare replacement legislation ready to go. Take a look at this quote from Tim Phillips, the president of Americans for Prosperity, which is the political arm of the Koch brothers network. He said, quote, "This is an epic fail for Republicans. Their failure to keep their promise will hurt them. It will." Epic fail. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, look, I don't blame the president at all. The president, when he came into office, really gave the House and Senate the power to write the health care bill. I mean, the White House wasn't writing the health care bill. The House and Senate were writing the health care bill. And up until even a week or so ago, when I would talk to the White House about health care, oh, McConnell's got it. He's got it. And you know, president will support the leader. The president will support the leader. He didn't get it. And so the president, I think, feels like they've let me down. And, you know, I went in there and I gave them the power to write this thing, and they didn't. So I think what you're seeing is the White House is now taking a step back, and they're saying maybe we need to start taking on some of this responsibility ourselves. You know, they're working now with some folks outside of Washington on a healthcare solution, and I would say that I think the chances are good that the president's actually and his team are going to come forward with something that is going to try to change the tenor here.
Is this dangerous, Congressman, do you think, for the president? He will need the support of members of the House and Senate Republicans if this Russia investigation goes in places he does not want it to go. We already see Republicans on Capitol Hill willing to push back the president on when he was bad-mouthing Jeff Sessions. This Russia sanctions bill ties his hands. We hear comments about it's almost, well, not unanimous, but a lot of Republicans expressing support for Bob Mueller. Is this risky for the president to be pushing Republicans aside?
Well, it's risky, but what's more risky is he isn't delivering on his populism. He's returned to his same themes, that he's going to take on the Washington elite. He's going to bring these communities back that the establishment has ignored. But he promised them that he was going to have infrastructure spending and construction jobs. He hasn't delivered that. He promised them apprenticeships and small businesses and vocational education. He hasn't delivered that. And so if he's not going to work with Congress, he's not going to be able to deliver on the promises that he made.
Nina, you're in Ohio, and when you talk to people that you know that supported Trump, because there are a lot of working class people, as you know, who supported Trump. Some of them supported Sanders in the primary and then switched to Trump. What are you hearing from them in terms of what they see going on in Washington? Do they blame Trump? Do they blame Congress? What do they want?
It's a mixed bag, Jake. I mean, as you pointed out, President Trump, or Mr. Trump, did win 70% of the vote in 30 counties in Ohio. And in a lot of those counties, these are the same voters that did vote for President Obama. It's mixed. Even though the unemployment rate is lower, people are not feeling that every day when they sit down at their kitchen table to try to figure out how to solve problems. It is a mixed bag. I will say that the president speaking or talking against the Republicans in Congress is nothing new. That's how he ran. He ran on on a Republican ticket, but he ran as the antithesis of establishment Republicans, and that is how he was able to beat 16 other people. So this is nothing new. No one should be surprised. But what he's not doing is draining the swamp. He is not fulfilling any of the promises that he made on the campaign trail. And so the feelings in Ohio are mixed about him.
Speaking of inter-party warfare, the next presidential election is quite some time away, 3.5 years, but it's never too early to start positioning yourself.
Early.
Polk County Democrats in Iowa announced this week that the Iowa Steak Fries Bag takes place September 30th. Surrogates for two potential presidential heavyweights on the Democratic side, Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris, are already sparring. Take a look at what Bernie Sanders supporter Nomi Kunst said this week. She said the Democrats will not win unless they address income inequality, no matter how they dress up their next candidate. If that candidate is in bed with Wall Street, you may as well lay a tombstone out for the Democratic Party. Does Kamala Harris have a Bernie land problem?
Well, I haven't seen that the senator said she is running, so that's not for me to say. What I will say is that Nomiki is absolutely right, that the Democrats have to do a better job. We lost in 2016 because we did not speak to the heart of the people, did not address their concerns. The economy, income inequality, wealth inequality is real. Real income and wages have not increased since or kept up with inflation since the 1980s. So the pain that folks are feeling is real, and we cannot dress that up. We have got to get out there and talk to the people, stop making up these slogans, a better deal. I mean, what does that mean? And even that slogan, even that policy that they're pushing has left out large swaths of the population, particularly people of color. So the Democrats have to stop playing games and get to the heart of it, and that's the truth of the matter.
The reality is that last quarter was the first quarter. Lowest income group of workers actually had an increase in their income higher than any other group in 20 years. So what does that mean? You're talking about income inequality. It's the first time in 20 years under a Trump economy that we've seen lower wage workers actually do better than the rest of the population. And one of the reasons for that is, I would argue, is the crackdown on illegal immigration, deportations. Who are those workers? Most of the people who are illegally are taking low-wage jobs away from American workers. And Donald Trump has sent a message out there. He's also sent a message on immigration overall. I think that's been a big thing, and plus his emphasis on manufacturing. Donald Trump, yeah, I agree. He hasn't had legislative accomplishments, but he's done some things administratively, and he's done some things through the bully pulpit that have changed the dynamic for lower-wage workers.
Congressman, you have said that Bernie Sanders should absolutely run again in 2020, but you're also a congressman from California. Kamala Harris is your senator. Where do you come down in this Bernie forces versus Kamala Harris forces fight?
Well, I think the lesson from Bernie Sanders' campaign in 2016 is none of the insiders should pick who the candidate is.
That's right.
And that what we ought to have is give people the chance to make their case, have a compelling economic vision, speak to how they're going to bring manufacturing jobs back. Kamala Harris is also an attractive candidate. I mean, she's had a progressive record on criminal justice. Senator Sanders, of course, has moved the party on Medicare for all and many issues. But let's have a diverse, open field where the establishment isn't picking the nominee.
Amanda, I want to ask you about all the speculation on the Republican side as well. Reported in the New York Times about people running almost shadow campaigns. It's in case President Trump doesn't run for re-election or something else happens, and B, possibilities, although no evidence concretely, that somebody might challenge him within the party. We see discussions about whether or not Vice President Pence is telling people that if President Trump can't do it, he's going to be there, and then also people like Ben Sasse of Nebraska and others. What do you think is going on behind the scenes?
Well, I think people are planning for contingencies. We don't know what's going to happen. It is a long, remote chance that Donald Trump won't be around running for re-election, but it's within the realm of possibility. But there's one name on that list, and one name only I really want to hear more from, I think is being undercovered, is Nikki Haley. If you look at her career from the House to the governor's house to Secretary of State, no Republican has navigated the Trump era better than her. She didn't endorse Trump. Somehow she still became a member of his cabinet. She is doing a tremendous job messaging conservative policies on the national stage, sometimes at odds with the Trump administration. She beat the Good Old Boy Network in South Carolina to get where she is. She is a phenomenal, canny politician, and I think people should pay a lot more attention to her.
Would you like to see an Indian American in the White House?
I don't agree with Nikki Haley, but she's got an inspiring story, so I will give her that.
Is it possible that a member of the president's cabinet would challenge him?
No, I don't.
None at all?
No, there's no way that's going to happen. I mean, Nikki Haley's done a great job as UN ambassador, and I think you're right. I think she set herself up for something in the future, but it isn't going to be against Donald Trump.
My understanding, by the way, is the reason that she has that job is because the Trump campaign wanted to reward South Carolina's lieutenant governor, who had been a big supporter of the president.
Yeah.
And so they cleared the governor's office, and now he's the governor. What do you think about the possible inter-party warfare going on in the Republican Party? You do see people going to Iowa, which is unusual when you have an incumbent president of that party.
Well, it's called elections, Jake, for a reason. I mean, people are going to run in 2020.
Republicans, though?
Republicans might run in 2020. You know, my governor, Governor Kasich, you know, is out there. We got to understand in this country, even though people don't necessarily, if you are elected or you have been elected, you don't necessarily want to see people run against you. But President Trump has left things wide open for a challenge. He has not really created the type of atmosphere that says that he should go unchallenged. He has proven himself, in my opinion, thus far, to be unworthy of that seat, and people are going to challenge him. But ultimately, the American people need to make the decision.
Well, let me ask you, as the leader of a progressive movement, do you think that Donald Trump would be the strongest Republican to challenge whoever the Democrat's going to be, or would you rather run against Mike Pence or someone like that?
I want the people to decide, and that's what we do.
I'm asking you as somebody who wants I understand that, but as somebody who wants a Democrat or a liberal to be in the White House, would you rather run against Donald Trump, or would you rather run against
I'm hoping
against
we
Mike?
will have a candidate that can beat either President Trump or whoever they put up to run against. And that candidate is...
We shouldn't underestimate him. I mean, his appeal to communities was, everyone else has forgotten you, and I'm going to bring you back. I'm going to restore that dignity and pride. And I think the Democrats, we have to give an aspirational economic message to these communities to say you can have opportunity in the 21st century, that we haven't forgotten you, that we want to harness your talent and hard work. And we've got work to do as a party.
But not just say it, do it, Jake.
All right, one and all, thank you so much. Appreciate it.